Kate Whitman was 32 years old and standing in the produce aisle of a grocery store 3 days before her older brother's wedding, trying to decide between two avocados that looked exactly the same except for the price. One was 50 cents more expensive for no visible reason. She studied them longer than necessary, not because the decision mattered, but because moments like this had filled her life lately, small, ordinary choices made in a life that felt stable and predictable. Kate believed, with quiet confidence, that nothing around her was about to collapse. That belief shattered when her phone vibrated in her coat pocket.
She almost ignored it. She usually did while shopping.
But this vibration felt different, longer, heavier, insistent in a way that made her chest tighten before she even looked. When she pulled out her phone, the notification on her banking app froze her in place. A charge for $12,300.
Event rental services. Catering. Chairs. Tent. Setup. The words blurred together.
For a moment, Kate honestly assumed it had to be a mistake, a scam, a system error that would vanish if she refreshed the screen.
She refreshed it. The charge remained.
Her stomach dropped so suddenly she had to grip the edge of the produce bin to steady herself. Around her, shoppers reached for apples and oranges, laughed softly, moved on with their day, completely unaware that Kate's sense of safety had just cracked open under fluorescent lights in aisle 4. Before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from today.
Your one click really helps support the channel. The account charged was not meant for purchases like this.
A year earlier, after Kate's mother had suffered a serious health scare, the family had agreed to create a shared emergency fund. The purpose was clear and limited: hospital bills, urgent repairs, genuine crises.
Kate had been the one to set it up.
She linked it to her primary account, capped the balance, and set conservative transaction limits. She shared the login details with her parents and her brother, Jason, trusting that the rules were understood without being written down. What she had not anticipated was how easily those limits could be worked around.
Vendors split charges.
Deposits were processed in segments, each small enough to pass unnoticed until they accumulated into something massive. Standing in the grocery store, Kate called the bank immediately. Her cart sat abandoned a few feet away. The representative was polite, efficient, calm to the point of indifference. After checking the transaction, she confirmed that nothing had been flagged. The account had been accessed using valid credentials. The charges were authorized under existing permissions. Kate thanked her, ended the call, and stared at her phone until the truth settled heavily in her chest.
This was not fraud. This was family.
Specifically, her older brother. Kate did not text Jason.
She did not call. She left the grocery store without buying anything and drove straight to his apartment.
When he opened the door, he looked unsurprised, almost relaxed, as if he had been expecting her. Jason leaned casually against the door frame, blocking the entrance with practiced ease. Behind him, his fiancée, Vanessa Cole, lay stretched across the couch in a silk robe, a wine glass balanced loosely in her hand.
Soft music played in the background. Candles flickered on the coffee table.
Vanessa scrolled through a tablet displaying what looked like a seating chart, completely unbothered. The calmness of the scene made Kate's skin crawl.
She did not waste time on greetings.
She asked one question, clearly and without raising her voice.
"Did you use my account?"
Jason did not hesitate.
He nodded once. "Yeah, of course."
He said it the way someone might explain borrowing a pen. Then he crossed his arms and tilted his head, wearing the familiar expression Kate had known her entire life, the one he used whenever he expected her to step in. "Kate," he said slowly, as if she were missing something obvious. "You're basically the safety net in this family.
Don't act surprised."
Vanessa laughed openly from the couch, amused rather than embarrassed. Kate waited for a joke that never came. Something inside Kate went very still. She smiled, though she had not planned to. It was not warm or kind, but it was controlled.
She stepped backward toward the door and spoke evenly.
"Good luck with the weather." Jason frowned, confused by the comment, but Kate was already gone. That night, she did not sleep. She sat at her kitchen table with her laptop open, methodically reviewing every transaction tied to the emergency account. Each vendor confirmed the same thing: cancellations were still possible. Full refunds were available.
Kate did not warn anyone. She did not argue or explain.
She canceled the tent rental, the tables, the chairs, the catering, the sound equipment, every major booking tied to her money.
By morning, the account balance was intact.
Her phone, however, was not quiet. Missed calls piled up from her mother, then her father, then Jason, then Vanessa. Messages arrived in quick succession, growing sharper with each one.
Kate did not listen to the voicemails. She already knew what they would say.
By mid-morning, Jason was at her door, pounding hard enough to rattle the frame. He stormed inside without waiting for an invitation, panic written clearly across his face. Jason paced Kate's living room like a trapped animal.
He did not ask how she was. He did not apologize. He launched straight into demands. She needed to fix this.
She needed to reinstate the bookings immediately. Guests were flying in. Invitations had already been sent. If the vendors were not paid again by nightfall, the wedding would be cancelled. His voice cracked, not with guilt, but with fear of embarrassment. Kate listened quietly until he finished, then asked a single question that had been burning in her chest since the grocery store. Why would you plan a wedding you couldn't afford? Jason stared at her as if she had asked something unreasonable.
We thought you'd handle it, he said. You always do. You make the most money. You don't have kids.
You don't need it like we do. The words landed with clarity. This was not desperation.
It was expectation.
Kate told him no. She told him she was not paying for a fantasy built without her consent. What they had done was not help, it was theft.
Jason did not argue.
He simply looked at her as if she had betrayed him, then walked out. Watching him leave, Kate understood something with painful certainty. This had never been about a wedding.
It was about who they believed she would always be. And she was done being that person.
Kate expected Jason leaving her apartment to calm things down. Instead, the silence lasted less than 12 hours. By the time she woke the next morning, her phone was flooded with missed calls and messages. The early ones were careful, almost polite. Her mother asked if something had gone wrong with the wedding bookings. Her father wanted to understand why vendors were contacting him. By mid-morning, the tone shifted. The messages became sharper, less curious and more accusatory. Kate read a few without responding, recognizing the familiar pattern. Confusion gave way to disappointment. Disappointment hardened into blame. She made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, phone face down, determined not to engage. When she finally opened her email, she understood the situation was worse than she had thought. Her inbox was filled with messages from vendors she had never spoken to directly. Subject lines referenced cancelled contracts, reverse deposits, and urgent clarification requests. A venue coordinator asked if the event was still happening. A DJ followed up about a refunded booking. A dessert vendor politely inquired whether the chocolate-dipped strawberries were still needed. Each email ended the same way, please advise. Kate's stomach tightened as the truth became clear. Jason had listed her email address as the primary contact for nearly everything. The entire wedding had been built around her money and her identity, without her consent and without a backup plan. Around noon, Kate answered a call out of pure curiosity. The man on the line introduced himself as Vanessa's father, Richard Cole.
He did not ask how she was.
He launched directly into disappointment, then accusation. He spoke about how devastated Vanessa was, how guests had already booked flights, how families were embarrassed, how much emotional damage Kate had caused by pulling the funding. He asked if she understood the consequences of her actions.
Kate listened without interrupting.
When he finally paused, she spoke calmly.
She said she understood perfectly. What she had corrected was unauthorized use of her money. There was a brief silence.
Then Richard's voice hardened. He asked if she had any idea how expensive weddings were. Kate replied evenly that she did, which was exactly why people usually paid for their own.
The call ended abruptly.
Minutes later, a new group chat appeared on her phone titled Family Wedding Emergency. It included her parents, Jason, Vanessa, and both of Vanessa's parents. Her mother typed first, insisting they needed to fix this immediately, that this wedding was a shared family milestone. Kate stared at the screen for a long moment, then quietly exited the chat.
She grabbed her keys and drove straight to the bank.
At the bank, Kate moved with focus rather than anger. She shut down the emergency account entirely, revoked all shared access, and changed every password connected to her finances. She updated her two-factor authentication and removed the shared credit card her parents occasionally used. The amount was small, but the meaning was not. When she returned home, 3 voicemails waited. Jason's voice sounded strained, almost desperate. He said the only way to save the wedding was for Kate to repay everything immediately.
He said she was humiliating the entire family.
Kate did not respond. That evening, Jason let himself into her apartment using the spare key she had forgotten to retrieve. He paced the living room, running his hands through his hair, listing consequences as if they were her responsibility.
Vanessa had not stopped crying. Her parents were furious. Guests were confused. Everything was falling apart. Kate waited until he finished. Then she asked him the same question again, quietly. Why did he think this was acceptable? Jason did not hesitate. He said they thought she would handle it. She made more money. She did not have children. She always took care of things.
Hearing it stated so plainly stripped the situation of any remaining doubt. Kate told him that if he could not afford a wedding, he should not have planned one. Jason left without another word. The following day brought no peace. Late in the morning, Kate's mother arrived unannounced, holding a printed budget sheet. She explained that she and Vanessa's parents had worked out a compromise.
A smaller venue. Simpler food. No band.
The total came just under $11,400. This, she said, was the solution. Everything could go back to normal if Kate paid. Kate stared at the paper, waiting for an apology that never came. When she asked if her mother truly expected her to cover it, the answer came with a sigh, as if Kate were being unreasonable. Canceling now would be humiliating, her mother said. Kate replied calmly that she was not paying another cent. Her mother's expression hardened. If the wedding did not happen, she said quietly, it would be Kate's fault. After she left, Kate sat alone at the kitchen table, not angry anymore, just stunned. The family did not see what had been done to her. They only saw what she had refused to continue doing. That afternoon, Vanessa's mother called. She skipped greetings entirely. She accused Kate of ruining her daughter's life. When Kate asked if she was aware the money had been taken without permission, the response was dismissive. That detail did not matter. Only fixing the situation did. The call ended, and something finally clicked into place. This was not a misunderstanding or a moment of panic. No one involved believed the action itself had been wrong. They believed Kate's refusal was the problem. That night, Kate disconnected every remaining shared thread. Auto payments she had quietly handled were turned off. Shared services were cancelled. Emergency contacts were updated. Each step felt deliberate, careful, necessary. She was not acting out of spite. She was closing doors that should never have been open. When she finished, the apartment was silent. Kate sat back and realized, with a steady sense of clarity, that the wedding had simply exposed something that had existed for years. She had stopped carrying the weight. The fallout was no longer hers to manage. The next morning, Kate found 3 handwritten envelopes slid under her apartment door. She recognized the writing immediately. Her parents' careful script, Jason's rushed scrawl, and Vanessa's looping cursive. She read them standing in the hallway, one by one. They sounded gentle on the surface, filled with phrases about love, forgiveness, and family unity. None of them contained an apology. Instead, each letter framed Kate's refusal as a misunderstanding, a temporary lapse in judgment that could still be corrected. Her father wrote that real family did not let money come between blood. Her mother wrote that everyone was hurting and that Kate had the power to fix it. Vanessa's note was the shortest, expressing disappointment rather than regret. Each letter ended with the same implication: this could all go away if Kate gave in. She folded the papers carefully and dropped them into the trash. As she closed the lid, her phone buzzed again. A notification from her banking app. This one made her chest tighten. A withdrawal had been processed from a trust account she rarely checked, $1,800, labeled as a medical expense. Kate sat down slowly, the weight of suspicion settling heavily in her stomach. Kate called the trust manager immediately. His tone shifted when she asked about the withdrawal. He confirmed it had cleared and forwarded the invoice attached to the request. It was not medical. It was for a wedding photographer. The booking had been submitted under family authorization, using Kate's last name. The realization was sharp and unmistakable. This was not a single incident or a desperate decision made under pressure. This was a pattern. They had been pulling from wherever they thought they could, quietly and confidently, assuming she would never notice or would fix it once she did. Kate contacted the photographer herself. He confirmed the booking details and provided documentation without argument. Kate thanked him, explained the payment was unauthorized, and requested a formal record of the transaction. Then she called her lawyer. Not to threaten or escalate publicly, but to document everything. Text messages, account access logs, emails, timestamps. Her lawyer's advice was simple and firm: protect yourself first. That afternoon, Vanessa showed up at Kate's office without warning. Security stopped her at the entrance. Vanessa did not scream or plead. She stared through the glass doors, expression flat, as if Kate had become someone she no longer recognized.
That evening, Vanessa left a voicemail.
Her voice was calm, controlled, almost rehearsed.
She said the wedding was off. She said the damage was done. She said everyone now understood what kind of person Kate was.
An hour later, Jason called. His tone was different, measured, almost peaceful.
He said they had decided to elope instead. Something intimate. Something romantic.
Greece, maybe. He said all they needed was help with travel expenses, around $6,000. Kate laughed, surprised by the sound of it.
Then she hung up.
The next morning, Vanessa posted her version of events online. A carefully framed photo, mascara streaked, a caption about betrayal and toxic family members who could not stand to see others happy.
Sympathy poured in from strangers.
Kate sent the post to Jason with a single message, take it down, or she would start talking.
2 hours later, his reply arrived. One word. Coward. Kate did not respond.
She froze the trust account entirely, adding a note that only she could authorize future withdrawals. No exceptions.
The pressure did not stop.
Jason sent a photo later that afternoon. He and Vanessa stood inside a travel agency, brochures spread across the counter, smiling tightly for the camera. Last chance to do the right thing, he wrote.
Kate ignored it.
That evening, her father left a voicemail saying she was acting out of character, that she would regret this, that family was forever. An hour later, her landlord emailed her, explaining that someone had reported suspicious activity at her apartment. There was no proof, no follow-up, but Kate knew exactly where it had come from.
The next day was supposed to be the wedding.
Her cousin Rachel called from the venue, confused.
There was nothing set up.
No tent.
No chairs. No food.
Guests were arriving with no explanation. Vanessa showed up an hour later in her dress and screamed at the locked doors.
Some guests laughed uncomfortably.
Others left quietly. Jason never appeared. Kate later learned he was on a flight to Miami with a co-worker Vanessa had once accused him of flirting with. The spectacle burned through the family in a single afternoon. That night, Vanessa posted again. Another photo, heavier this time, anger replacing tears.
Kate did not read the comments. She did not need to.
The next morning, she packed her essentials and left. 2 states away, she started over quietly.
A smaller apartment. A new job. A new number. No shared accounts. No open doors.
When people asked if she regretted it, Kate answered honestly. She did not. It had never been about the wedding. It had been about how easily they took, how certain they were that she would always carry them.
She had stopped. They had fallen.
And for the first time in her adult life, Kate walked forward without looking back.
The move happened faster than anyone expected. Kate did not announce it or explain it.
She transferred departments, signed a lease, and left before anyone had time to organize another intervention. The new town was smaller, quieter, the kind of place where people nodded instead of stared. She bought secondhand furniture, learned the nearest grocery store, and unpacked without ceremony.
Her phone stayed mostly silent.
A few missed calls came through from unfamiliar numbers.
She ignored them.
At work, she kept her head down and did what she had always done best, showed up prepared, focused, reliable.
No one there knew her family history.
No one expected anything from her except competence.
That alone felt like relief. Weeks passed.
Then months. The story followed her online in fragments, reposted screenshots and vague accusations, but it faded the way gossip always does when there is nothing left to feed it. Kate never added her version.
She did not need to.
Silence proved more effective than any explanation. Jason tried once more. The message arrived late at night, casual in tone, as if nothing had happened.
He asked how she was. He mentioned money being tight. He hinted at regret without naming it.
Kate read the message and closed the app.
She did not reply.
A week later, her parents sent an email saying they missed her. They said the family felt broken. They said time had a way of softening things.
Kate read it carefully. She noticed what was missing.
No acknowledgement of what had been taken. No responsibility. Only the hope that she would return to her old role quietly.
She archived the message and moved on.
The distance did not hurt the way she had expected.
It felt honest.
Without the constant pull of expectation, her days became simpler.
She slept better. She laughed more easily.
She stopped bracing herself for the next request. News reached her through a mutual acquaintance months later.
Jason and Vanessa had not eloped.
They had broken up publicly and bitterly.
The version circulating changed depending on who told it. Some blamed stress. Others blamed money. Kate listened once, then declined further updates. Whatever story they needed no longer involved her. She spent weekends walking unfamiliar streets, learning which cafe remembered her order, which neighbors waved back. She built routines that belonged only to her. When she thought about the wedding now, it felt distant, like watching a storm on the horizon after it had already passed. She did not feel victorious. She felt settled. That mattered more. For the first time, nothing in her life required justification. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, Kate sat on her balcony with a cup of coffee and watched the light shift across the buildings. She thought about how close she had come to paying again, to smoothing things over, to carrying the weight just one more time. She understood now that the cost had never been financial alone. It had been gradual, collected over years in assumptions and silence. The wedding had only made it visible. She had not destroyed anything. She had stepped out of the way. What followed was not her responsibility. The absence of chaos felt unfamiliar at first. Then it felt earned. Kate never returned to the grocery store aisle where it had started, but she remembered the moment clearly. The avocados, the charge, the sudden shift. It marked the end of one life and the beginning of another. She did not miss the role she had left behind. She did not miss being needed for the wrong reasons. She had kept what was hers, including her time, her effort, and her peace. When people asked about her family, she answered simply. She was doing well. And she was. She had stopped carrying what was never meant to be hers. The rest had fallen away on its own. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this. Sometimes the lesson is simple: help should never be taken for granted.